My name is Reza Amini, and I am from Tehran, Iran. I have lived my whole life under a regime that controls almost everything what we say, what we do, even what we think. For years, I learned to walk carefully, to avoid drawing attention, and to hide my feelings whenever I was around others. Fear was a constant companion, a shadow that never left my side. Life was beautiful in many ways. Our city has ancient streets, stunning mosques, and a culture full of poetry and music, but it was always mixed with silence and caution. That night started like any other. I was sitting in my small apartment, scrolling through my phone, trying to distract myself from the heaviness that seemed to hang in the air. Rumors had been circulating for weeks, whispers that change might be coming. People talked quietly in their homes, on social media, and in private messages, but nobody spoke too loudly. Change was dangerous. Hope was dangerous. Then my phone buzzed. A message from my friend Amir. Riza, come outside. Something is happening. I hesitated. My first thought was that it was probably another protest, another moment that would fade by morning. But another message arrived almost immediately. This is not normal. People are celebrating. Celebrating? That word didn't belong in our streets, not like this. I walked to my window and looked down at the street below. At first, it looked ordinary. Cars passing slowly, streetlights flickering, a few pedestrians. But then I noticed a small group of people gathering, moving toward each other. Not running, not hiding, just gathering. And then I heard it. Laughter. Real laughter. I froze. More messages began flooding my phone. Videos, voice notes, short clips of people shouting, waving their hands, crying tears of joy. My heart began to race. Something was happening, something I could not yet understand. I grabbed my jacket and rushed out of my apartment. In the hallway, I noticed my elderly neighbor, a woman who rarely left her home, standing by her door. Her face, usually tense and cautious, now carried an expression I had never seen before. "Help, do you hear it?" she asked softly. I nodded, unable to speak. "I don't know what is happening," she continued, "but it feels different." I descended the stairs and opened the building's main door. The moment I stepped outside, the street seemed to come alive. People were everywhere, men, women, young and old, filling the road in a way I had never seen before. What shocked me most was not the crowd itself, but the expressions on their faces. For the first time, I saw freedom openly reflected in strangers' eyes. Fear had vanished, replaced by something I could barely recognize: joy. A young man ran past me shouting, "It's over! It's over!" I grabbed his arm. "What is over?" I asked. "The regime," he shouted, his voice shaking with excitement. "It's finally over." My mind struggled to comprehend his words. Finished? Could it be that simple? And yet, the energy in the air felt too real to ignore. More people poured into the streets. Car horns blared endlessly, and the crowd grew larger by the minute. Strangers embraced each other, laughed, and cried as if they had known each other their entire lives. It was spontaneous, uncontrolled, and utterly beautiful. Amir appeared beside me, breathless and smiling. "You came," he shouted. "What is really happening?" I asked. He shook his head. "I don't fully know, but something has shifted. People everywhere are coming out. It's happening across the country." I could hardly process it. Something had changed, something beyond politics or protests. I felt it in the air, a strange calm underneath the chaos. The longer I walked among the crowd, the stronger that calm grew. It was unlike anything I had ever experienced. Fear and caution were replaced by an overwhelming sense of peace. At one point, I stopped to catch my breath, feeling the strange calm more intensely. Amir noticed. "You feel it too, right?" he asked. "Yes," I whispered. "Exactly that. Something is happening, something bigger than us." Around us, people continued celebrating, yet the energy had shifted subtly. The music stopped momentarily, the shouting quieted, and all eyes turned to a man standing on top of a car. He wasn't shouting or dancing, he was speaking, and somehow, the street listened. "I don't know what is happening tonight," he said, his voice clear and steady. "I don't know how this will end, but I know one thing." He paused. The entire street seemed to hold its breath. "We are not alone." A hush fell over the crowd. The calm I had been feeling intensified, spreading through me like a wave. Around me, people exchanged glances, some nodding slowly, others staring with awe. Amir leaned closer. "Do you feel that?" "Yes," I whispered again. "I feel something inside me." The man continued, raising his eyes to the sky. "For years, we have lived in fear. For years, we thought no one was seeing us, no one was hearing us. But tonight, I feel like something greater is with us." I swallowed hard. Those words weren't just for him. They were for all of us. For me. The crowd slowly erupted again, But this time the celebration had changed. It was no longer just excitement. It carried purpose, reverence, and awe. People began praying openly, some lifting their hands to the sky, some quietly whispering thanks. The joy was still there, but now it was intertwined with a profound peace that I could not explain. I realized then that this night was not only the end of something, it was the beginning of something far greater. I felt it deep in my chest, a stirring of hope and faith I had never experienced before. I didn't fully understand it, but I knew it was real. Amir nudged me. Come on, let's keep moving. This is just the beginning. I nodded, my heart pounding, my spirit restless with anticipation. For the first time in years, I allowed myself to stop worrying about what might happen next. I let myself feel the moment fully. The city of Tehran had transformed overnight. Streets that were once silent and tense now overflowed with life, music, and laughter. And yet, amidst the chaos, there was a quiet presence I could sense, an unseen hand guiding, protecting, and comforting us. I looked up at the stars. They seemed brighter than usual, or maybe it was just me. My heart was racing, but underneath it all, I felt a stillness I had never known. This is only the beginning, I whispered to myself, almost afraid to speak it aloud. I didn't know what was coming next. I didn't know how our lives would change, or what the world outside Tehran would see. But one thing was certain, the fear that had haunted us for so long had broken, and something far greater was beginning to take its place. That night, I stepped into the streets as a man living in fear. I would go to bed years later, not knowing what the future held but changed forever, because for the first time, I felt that something beyond ourselves had entered our lives, quietly, powerfully, and irrevocably. And I knew nothing would ever be the same again. After stepping into the streets that night, I realized I had never truly seen my city before. Tehran, with its narrow alleys, crowded markets, and ancient mosques, had always been beautiful, but it had also been silent. We lived with fear as a constant shadow. But that night, everything changed. The streets were overflowing with people. It wasn't just a few celebrating in small groups anymore. Entire neighborhoods had spilled into the roads. I could see men, women, and children running, laughing, crying, waving their hands in the air. Cars stopped in the middle of the street as drivers jumped out to join the crowd. Music blared from small speakers, horns blared endlessly, and the air vibrated with something I couldn't name. Amir grabbed my arm, almost shaking me with excitement. Riza, do you see this? Everyone is out. This isn't just Tehran, it's everywhere. People are celebrating freedom. I nodded, but my mind was still trying to process it. I had seen protests before, I had seen demonstrations, but this was different. This was pure joy, raw and untamed. People were hugging strangers like they were family. Old men were dancing with teenagers. Women raised their hands in the sky, singing, laughing, and shouting words of hope. And then I felt it again, the strange calm I had noticed earlier. Amidst all this chaos, I felt a peace inside me that I had never known. It wasn't quite fear. It wasn't cautious relief. It was something stronger, something deeper. I followed Amir as he pushed us toward the heart of the crowd. Every corner we turned, the streets seemed fuller, louder, more alive. People were climbing on rooftops, on cars, shouting to be heard. I saw a woman dancing in the middle of the street, tears streaming down her face. She shouted to everyone around her, "This is our night. We are free." Her voice was carried by the wind, reaching hundreds of people nearby. They repeated it back in a chorus of joy. And for the first time in my life, I felt what real freedom sounded like. Amir turned to me, eyes shining. "Riza, look at them. Look at everyone. Do you feel it? This isn't just political. Something spiritual is happening." I couldn't answer immediately. I wanted to, but words felt too small. The feeling inside me was growing stronger. It wasn't just excitement or hope, it was like a warmth spreading through my chest. A quiet, unstoppable presence that made the fear I had carried for years feel insignificant. We walked further into the streets. People were holding small candles, smartphones, even pieces of fabric waving in the air. Flags, banners, messages of hope. But no one was fighting. No one was screaming angrily. There was no violence, only celebration. It was a unity I had never seen before. A connection that transcended age, gender, and social class. Strangers hugged each other, smiled at each other, even offered water and food to anyone passing by. Suddenly, a group of young men climbed onto a car and started shouting, "Tonight we are alive. Tonight we are free. Khamenei is finished." The crowd erupted, clapped, sang, and danced. But as I watched, I noticed something extraordinary. While everyone was busy celebrating, many people were also looking up. They were lifting their hands, whispering quietly, praying aloud in small groups. I could hear phrases like, Thank you, Lord. Bless this night. Guide us forward. It was subtle at first, almost invisible among the chaos, but I felt it. Something unseen was moving through the streets, touching people in ways that nothing else could. And then, I felt it within myself. I stopped walking, placing my hands on my chest. My heart was racing, yet my soul felt calm and peaceful in a way I had never imagined. Amir, do you feel that? I asked, my voice shaking. He nodded slowly, looking around. Yes, I feel it too. Something is different. It's not just the streets. It's inside us. Do you feel it too? Yes, I said, barely above a whisper. Something is happening here. Something bigger than us. We moved on, the crowd thickening. People danced, shouted, laughed, and cried. But everywhere I looked, I saw moments of stillness. A man kneels quietly in the middle of a street, eyes closed. A woman holding her child and whispering words of thanks. A group of teenagers huddled together, singing softly in a language that felt eternal. And then I noticed the man from earlier, the one who had stood in the car. He was back, this time in the middle of a small square, climbing atop a bench to speak to the crowd. Everyone turned to listen. I do not know what is happening tonight, he said, voice clear and commanding. I do not know what tomorrow will bring, but I know this, we are not alone. Something greater is with us. His words sent shivers down my spine. Around me, the crowd fell silent, as if the city itself had paused to hear him. And then I felt it again, the calm, the presence, stronger than ever. I couldn't explain it. It was like a gentle wave moving through my body, washing away fear, doubt, and confusion. People began whispering among themselves. Do you feel it? Yes. It's like a presence. Something is happening beyond what we can see. I looked at Amir. It's real, I said. I don't know how, but it's real. Something is moving through this city, through us. He nodded, a smile spreading across his face. This is beyond freedom. It's beyond politics. Riza, it's spiritual. I didn't fully understand it yet, but I could feel it. A presence of hope, of love, of guidance that went beyond anything we had experienced under fear and control. The celebration continued, but now it was different. Music still played, people still danced, but there was reverence in the air. People were praying aloud, some kneeling, some lifting their hands to the sky. A new energy had entered the city, something unseen, powerful, unstoppable. As I walked through the crowd, I noticed people looking at me. Some smiled knowingly, some nodded, some whispered words of hope, and in that moment, I realized we were not alone. The fear that had controlled us for so long had been replaced by faith in something greater than ourselves, something that could not be silenced, could not be broken, could not be stopped. I raised my hands to the sky, letting the energy flow through me. My heart was light, my mind was clear, my soul felt alive in a way I had never imagined. The city of Tehran, my home, had come alive in more than one way. I turned to Amir, tears in my eyes. Do you feel it? He nodded. I feel it. Something has entered this city tonight. Something powerful. I can't explain it, but I believe it. And I knew he was right. This night was more than celebration, more than freedom, more than the end of fear. Something had begun, a movement, a presence, a spiritual awakening that would change us forever. I took a deep breath and whispered to myself, almost afraid to speak it aloud. This is only the beginning, because I knew, deep in my heart, that this night would mark a turning point, not just for Tehran, not just for Iran, but for every soul ready to receive it. The streets were alive, the city had awakened, and I was standing at the heart of it all, transformed, humbled, and ready for whatever was coming next. By the time the streets had settled into a rhythm of celebration, I realized something profound had changed inside me. The city was still alive, still overflowing with people, music, and joy, but I wasn't paying attention to that anymore. My heart, my mind, my very being was focused on something else, a presence I could not explain. It started subtly. At first, it was just a feeling, like a warm current flowing through me. I tried to brush it off, telling myself it was adrenaline, the excitement of the moment, or even exhaustion. But the feeling kept returning, stronger each time. It was gentle, yet undeniable. It whispered peace in a place filled with chaos. I stepped aside from the main crowd, standing in a narrow street that connected to the square. The sounds of celebration still reached me, but they felt distant, like the world had shifted just slightly out of tune with reality. My knees trembled, and my breath caught in my chest. I couldn't explain why, but I just knew that something was watching over us. A sudden hush fell over the crowd, as if time itself had paused. I looked up at the sky. The stars, which had always seemed far away and distant, now shone with incredible brightness, almost as if they were speaking directly to me. The air felt charged, The world felt alive. And then I saw him. I couldn't see him clearly at first. He wasn't a figure in the streets, and he wasn't standing before me. He was everywhere and nowhere at the same time, a presence that filled the air, that moved through the people, that rested gently on my shoulders. My heart recognized him before my mind could even understand. Jesus. The name formed in my mind with absolute certainty. It wasn't spoken aloud. It wasn't written anywhere. It was simply there, undeniable, and with his presence came a wave of peace so deep, so overwhelming, that it nearly brought me to my knees. Fear, doubt, and hesitation, the constant companions of my life, were gone. They evaporated in an instant, replaced by a warmth that radiated from my chest outward. I fell to my knees on the cobblestone street. Tears streamed down my face as I whispered, "Lord, is it really you?" A voice, calm and clear, filled my mind. It was not like any human voice I had ever heard. It was gentle yet powerful, tender yet commanding. "Riza," the voice said, "I have come. I am here. Fear has ended. I have taken control." I shook, overwhelmed. My eyes scanned the crowd. People were still celebrating, but now many of them were pausing. Some were crying quietly. Some whispered words I couldn't understand, but I could feel their faith. Others looked up at the sky with arms lifted. Even strangers who had been shouting and dancing were suddenly still, as if they had felt the presence. I rose slowly, my knees weak but my spirit lifted. The presence wasn't something distant anymore. It was inside me. It was in my chest, my heart, my mind. And as I moved forward, I realized it was in everyone around me. "Jesus," I whispered again, unable to stop the words from falling from my lips. You are really here." The warmth in my chest grew, spreading through every limb. My eyes watered as I saw people near me begin to change. The anger, fear, and tension in their faces softened. Smiles appeared where doubt had lingered. Children laughed freely, their parents embracing them without fear. Entire strangers hugged each other with a love that had no explanation. Amir stumbled beside me, tears streaming down his face. "Riza, do you feel it?" he asked, voice shaking. "Yes," I said, my own voice breaking. "I feel him. He is here. I can't explain it, but he is real. He is here." We walked together slowly, moving through the streets. Every step we took, I could feel him stronger, as if guiding us through the crowd, protecting us, filling the night with his presence. I noticed more people beginning to kneel, to whisper prayers, to lift their hands. Some shouted words of joy. Others simply closed their eyes and breathed him in, as if their souls had been waiting for this moment all their lives. It wasn't just peace I felt, it was power. A power that could not be resisted, could not be denied, could not be ignored. It filled every corner of the city, moving through walls, through buildings, through the people themselves. I found myself standing in the middle of a square where hundreds of people had gathered. The celebration had transformed into something entirely different. It was still joyful, still loud, but now it was sacred. People were praying openly, lifting their voices to the heavens, calling out in unison to him who had arrived. "Jesus has come," someone shouted. "He is with us." The crowd erupted in cheers, but it wasn't the same chaos from earlier. It was reverent. It was thankful. It was worshipful. And I realized then that this was not merely the end of a regime, not merely the celebration of freedom. This was a spiritual awakening, a transformation of the heart of a nation. I fell to my knees again, overwhelmed. Tears fell freely as I whispered prayers I had never known I could pray. "Lord, take control. Guide us. Heal us. Make us new." Around me, the presence of Jesus seemed to grow stronger, almost tangible. I could feel his hand resting on the shoulders of people I didn't even know, strengthening them, comforting them, filling them with courage. The streets, once filled with fear and silence, were now alive with his power. I turned to Amir, his face glowing with tears and awe. "Do you see it?" I asked. He nodded, trembling. "It's him. He is really here. He has taken control. Everything is different." "Yes," I said, my voice firm despite the emotion. "Everything is different. I can feel it in my soul. We are not alone anymore. He is here." The night went on. People continued to celebrate, but the celebration was no longer just about politics or freedom from fear. It was about surrender, about worship, about letting him lead. I watched as strangers shared stories of hope, whispered prayers, and hugged each other with tears flowing freely. It was as if the city itself had been reborn, infused with a love and peace that could not have come from human hands. Hours passed, yet the presence never faded. It did not tire. It did not weaken. I realized then that we were witnesses to something extraordinary, a divine intervention that was both personal and collective. Jesus had come, and he had taken control, not just of the streets, not just of our city, but of our hearts. I closed my eyes and whispered again, "Thank you, Lord. Thank you for being here. Thank you for taking control. Guide us, teach us, help us to follow you." When I opened my eyes, I saw the city transform. The fear that had haunted us for decades had melted away. The people I passed on the streets looked at me with a new light in their eyes. I felt it in myself too. The chains of doubt, fear, and hesitation had been broken, and in that moment, I knew beyond all doubt, this night was not just a celebration, it was a turning point, a new beginning, a moment when Jesus had taken control of our lives, our hearts, and our nation. I took a deep breath, feeling his presence fill every part of me, and I whispered once more, softly but with unwavering conviction, "This is only the beginning. The world will never be the same again." By the next morning, the streets had not returned to silence. If anything, they were louder than the night before. But now the noise carried a new tone, one of worship, prayer, and unity. I walked through the city, marveling at the transformation. Shops were open, but instead of business as usual, people stopped to pray in small groups. Cars that had been abandoned in the middle of streets the night before were now used to create impromptu altars for worship. Flags lifted with hands raised in reverence, and voices joined together calling to Jesus. I walked alongside Amir, both of us overwhelmed by what we were witnessing. Everywhere we went, people were telling stories of how they had felt his presence last night. Some said they had seen visions, others felt a warmth fill their chest, and some said they had heard a voice guiding them. Children spoke with boldness, adults wept openly, and elders smiled with a peace I had never seen before in their eyes. "Riza," Amir said, shaking his head in disbelief, This is amazing. Look at them. It's not just Tehran. We've received messages from other cities. People everywhere are praying. They are seeing him too." I nodded, my throat tight with emotion. It's true. This is not just a city celebrating freedom. This is a nation awakening. As we moved deeper into the heart of the city, I noticed something extraordinary. Small groups were gathering spontaneously, forming circles for prayer, song, and sharing testimonies. The streets that had once been filled with fear now echoed with it. Collective confession of faith. People were declaring openly, "Jesus is here. He has taken control. We belong to him now." I stopped at one group where a young woman was speaking to an audience of dozens, her voice strong despite tears running down her cheeks. "For years, we hid our hearts. For years, we whispered in secret, afraid of punishment. But tonight we are free. Not just free from fear, free from oppression, but free to worship. Free to follow, free to be in his presence. Jesus has come, and he has taken control." The crowd erupted in agreement. Hands were lifted, voices joined together, and the energy that had begun the night before now had purpose. It was not a mere celebration, it was worship. I felt myself drawn into the circle. My knees touched the ground, but this time it was different. This was not fear or hesitation, it was surrender. I raised my hands to the sky and whispered, "Lord, we give you everything. Take our hearts, take our nation, take control." The warmth I had felt before intensified. I could feel his presence in everyone around me, in the air itself, in the wind that brushed my face. People nearby smiled at me, some touched my shoulders as if offering me strength. Others simply nodded in silent agreement, acknowledging that we were all part of something greater. As the day progressed, I walked through the city and noticed more signs of transformation. Families that had once hidden their faith now prayed openly in their homes, inviting neighbors to join them. Children played in the streets with laughter that carried a message of hope. Even the government buildings, symbols of control and fear, now had people standing outside, raising their hands in reverence. Amir leaned close to me, his voice low but urgent. "Riza, do you feel it? The power here, the love. This isn't just happening in the streets, it's moving through the hearts of everyone. People are turning to God, openly, without fear." "Yes," I whispered, my voice trembling. "I feel it. Everywhere I look, everywhere I hear. People are awakening. They are turning to him. Jesus is taking control, and nothing can stop him." We continued walking until we reached a large square in the center of Tehran. Thousands had gathered, forming a sea of people. The air vibrated with prayer, worship, and thanksgiving. Some sang songs of joy, others spoke in quiet tones, and many knelt, faces to the ground, surrendering fully to him. In the middle of the square, a platform had been formed spontaneously. A man stepped forward to address the crowd, his voice carrying clearly above the thousands around him. "People of Iran," he said, "we have lived under fear for too long. Tonight, we no longer hide. Tonight, we do not whisper in the shadows. Jesus is here. He has taken control. He sees us, he hears us, and he is with us. Let us follow him boldly, openly, with hearts full of faith. The crowd roared in agreement. The sound was deafening, but it carried no anger, only love and reverence. I felt tears well up in my eyes as I watched strangers embrace one another, pray together, and lift their voices in unison. Amir nudged me. Look, Riza, this is what I prayed for. For years, we prayed for freedom, for courage, for guidance. Take control of this nation, take control of our hearts, and teach us to follow you fully. And then I heard it, a soft, clear voice in my mind. Riza, I am here. I have taken control. Lead others in faith, and teach them to follow me. I fell to my knees once more, overwhelmed by the magnitude of what was happening. The nation had turned its heart to God, and I was witnessing the birth of a spiritual awakening that would change Iran forever. Around me, the crowd continued, prayers blending with songs, whispers of thanks mixing with cries of joy. And I understood something profoundly important. This was only the beginning. The presence of Jesus had entered our nation, and his influence would ripple through every heart, every home, every city. Amir stood beside me, his face glowing with tears and awe. Riza, he whispered, we are witnessing a miracle. Yes, I said. My heart was full. A nation is turning to God, and we are part of it. We are part of his plan. The night fell fully, but the streets remained alive. People stayed together, praying, worshiping, and sharing their stories. The energy of the day had transformed into a sacred rhythm, a heartbeat of faith that pulsed through the city. And in that moment, I realized something crucial. This awakening was not limited to Tehran. It was spreading. Cities across Iran were seeing the same transformation. People everywhere were turning their hearts to God, following him with courage, love, and unwavering faith. I raised my hands to the sky, feeling the warmth of his presence in every corner of the city. Thank you, Lord, I whispered. Thank you for showing us your power. Thank you for taking control. Help us to follow you, to lead others, and to live in your truth. And as I looked around, at thousands of transformed faces, at the city filled with worship, I knew one thing with absolute certainty. Jesus had come. He had taken control, and nothing would ever be the same again. It has been days since that night when the streets came alive with joy, hope, and worship. Yet, even now, I can feel the change in every corner of my being. The city has not returned to silence, nor have the people gone back to fear. Something bigger has taken root, something permanent, something that will forever transform our lives. I walk through the streets of Tehran and marvel at what has become of my city. Where fear once ruled, courage now thrives. Where doubt once lingered, faith now grows. Where silence once reigned, voices now rise in praise. The transformation is not just in the streets, it is in the hearts of the people. Everywhere I look, I see hope in its purest form. Children run freely through the alleys, laughing without hesitation. Families pray together openly in their homes, sharing testimonies of miracles and healing. Neighbors who once kept their distance now embrace each other as one. Strangers meet, smile, and speak words of encouragement. The entire city feels alive, breathing with the spirit of renewal. I find myself standing in the same square where it all began. Thousands of people are gathered once more, their voices lifted in songs of praise, their hands raised to the sky in surrender. And yet, what strikes me most is the quiet moments, those small, intimate expressions of faith that carry immense power. A young woman kneels on the cobblestones, her hands clasped tightly as she whispers a prayer. An elderly man closes his eyes, tears streaming down his face as he thanks God for his guidance. Children sing softly in a corner, their voices carrying innocence and hope that touch every soul nearby. I walk among them, feeling the presence of Jesus in a way I never have before. It is not distant or abstract. It is tangible, living, and breathing within each person. I reach out to touch the shoulder of a man I do not know, and I feel a warmth that speaks of healing and reassurance. We smile at each other, wordlessly acknowledging that we are part of something greater than ourselves. Amir finds me and takes my hand. Riza, he says, his eyes shining. Do you realize what we are witnessing? This is more than a celebration. This is a new era, a new Iran, a nation fully alive in God's presence. I nod, my heart swelling with emotion. I know, I reply. It is not just the streets, Amir. It is within us. In every heart that has turned to him, we have been given a new life, a chance to follow him fully, without fear or hesitation. As I reflect on the days that have passed, I realize how much I have changed personally. The fear that once dictated every decision in my life has been replaced by courage. The doubt that clouded my mind has been replaced by clarity and faith. The silence that held me captive has been replaced by a voice that speaks truth, love, and hope. I remember the nights I spent hiding, whispering prayers in secret, afraid of being caught. Those nights feel distant now, like a different lifetime. I have been reborn not just as a citizen of Tehran, but as a follower of Jesus, filled with purpose, strength, and unwavering faith. The city itself seems to share in my transformation. Tehran has become a living testament to the power of surrender, the beauty of faith, and the unstoppable force of God's presence. The streets are no longer battlegrounds of fear but pathways of worship. The buildings, once symbols of oppression, now stand as reminders of resilience, hope, and divine guidance. People approach me, sharing their own stories of transformation. A shopkeeper tells me how he felt a warmth in his chest when he first saw the crowds gathering, realizing for the first time in decades that God was present. A young teacher shares how her students are now learning not just academics, but also courage, compassion, and faith. Even those who were once skeptics speak of peace and clarity that they cannot deny. I take a deep breath, letting it fill my lungs fully. I realize that this new Iran is not just about political change or freedom from fear. It is about spiritual awakening, personal transformation, and the collective embrace of God's presence in every life. Amir and I sit on the steps of an old mosque, now filled with worshippers. We watch as people gather, pray, and share stories of hope. Riza, he says quietly, this is bigger than we imagined. It's a movement of the heart, and we are part of it. I nod, tears in my eyes. Yes, Amir, we are witnesses, and more than that, we are participants. Our lives, our hearts, our actions, they all matter now. We can lead, we can teach, we can inspire others to follow him. The city is alive with his presence, yet there is still work to be done. Fear may have been broken, but the journey of faith is ongoing. I feel called to step forward, to guide others, to share the message of hope, courage, and surrender that has transformed my life. I rise to my feet, looking out over the city. The lights of Tehran glimmer like stars reflected on earth. I see people kneeling, standing, singing, and praying. I feel the pulse of life, the heartbeat of a nation renewed. And I know, with unwavering certainty, that Jesus has taken control not just for a moment, but for a lifetime. I walk through the crowd, touching shoulders, offering smiles, and sharing words of encouragement. Each person I meet carries a spark of transformation, a flame of faith that will grow brighter each day. The city is no longer the same, and neither am I. We are a new people, walking in a new light, living in a new era. Amir walks beside me, a quiet smile on his face. Riza, he says, do you realize what we are witnessing? A nation reborn, a people renewed, and we are living in the middle of it. Yes, I reply softly, my heart full of gratitude. This is the new Iran, a nation turned to God, and it starts with each of us. I pause, looking up at the night sky. The stars shine brightly above, but even they seem dim compared to the light I feel within. I whisper a prayer, not just for myself, but for every soul in this city, in this nation, and beyond. Lord, thank you for taking control. Thank you for your presence, your guidance, and your love. Help us to walk in your ways, to lead with courage, and to inspire others to follow you. May this nation continue to awaken to your glory, and may our hearts remain faithful forever. The night grows quiet, but the presence of Jesus remains. I feel it in the wind, in the air, in every heartbeat around me. It is a new era, a new life, a new Iran. I turn to Amir, my voice filled with hope. This is just the beginning. Amir, the world will see the power of God in our lives. We will carry this light forward, and nothing will ever be the same again. He nods, tears in his eyes. Yes, Riza, we are the new Iran, and we are living proof of his power. As I stand there, looking out over the city, I realize something incredible. The change is not just in Iran, it is in me. The fear that once controlled my life is gone. The doubts that haunted my mind are gone. The silence that kept me hidden is gone. I am new, reborn in faith, courage, and hope. This is the gift of surrender. This is the power of Jesus taking control. This is the birth of a new nation and a new me. And I know, with every fiber of my being, that the story does not end here. It continues in every heart willing to receive him, in every street filled with worship, and in every soul brave enough to follow. Iran is new. I am new. And the world will never be the same again.